we're going to deal with them a little bit differently. Social Security, it's a federal issue. Of course, each elected official is different in every state, and we lobby them in different ways. But marriage equality is mostly a state issue. There are federal issues that we're all going to work on, but we need to make sure that we customize how chapters get involved in their own states based on how their state passes marriage and based on what resources they have available in that state. So as many of you may know, if you're involved in now, that our chapters come in all different shapes and sizes all across the country. So ways that people can get involved, ways that chapters can get involved is really going to vary. So one of the first steps I wanted to take is have some real deliberate conversation with chapter leaders across the country and say, what can your chapter provide? Again, this is affected by where their state is in the marriage equality process and also by what they have available. So after this conference, we'll be setting up chapter agreement calls where you can take time with one of our field staffers, and one of our regional field fellows is here right now that will be doing that. Catherine has been wonderful getting things together. We can sit down with chapter leaders and say, what is it that you can provide? So some chapters, it's going to be, we don't have a lot of people, or we're really being fought on reproductive justice in our state. That's where our main focus is, but we could tweet. We can use Tumblr. We can phone bank once a month for you guys for another state, things like that. Then there's chapters like Illinois who it's going to be front and center in just a few months, and we've got to get going. We've got to have regular actions. We've got to do coalition meetings, all that kind of stuff. What the field team is going to offer is regular trainings. So we'll have webinars as often as necessary. The first chapter organizing webinar, I'm hoping to plan it for August, but just keep your eye out for more details. Where we're going to start by talking to people, explaining, making sure that everyone understands exactly what needs to happen in their state, how to explain these issues. As Bonnie talked about, all that came through the Supreme Court, there's still a lot of confusion as to what that means. Some people think, great, we've got equal marriage now, we're done, we can all go home. That's definitely not the case, and we want to make sure that those people that support us understand the messaging, make sure that it's all the same. We're going to make sure that we coach people through different things. It's scary. If you've never testified before a legislative body before, it can be very intimidating. And as Bonnie said, we've got states that just did it. So we're going to make sure that we share talking points. We train people so that you are fully confident before you go before your board, before you propose legislation, before whatever is going on in your state. Secondly, we're going to provide materials. So we will have things ready to go. What I don't want is for chapter leaders and activists to be starting from scratch each time we start to work in their state or we change the work in their state. We're going to provide sample letters to the editor, op-eds, tweets, Pinterest, Tumblr, Facebook, and we even have some virtual chapters that can get involved and do a lot of work on the internet. So this will help in a lot of different ways. In many cases, you can cut and paste information, put it straight up. Of course, you can change it and make it work in your state. Not the exact same messaging will work everywhere. But I want to make sure that chapter leaders are focused on their communities and on their members and not on logistics and starting things from scratch. So we're going to try to give you as much as we can. And like I said, we're really going to try to provide customized support. It's important that we look at what coalitions already exist. If your chapters already have a wonderful relationship with the coalition and things are going well, like in Illinois, great example, I'm not going to stop that. I'm going to encourage that and support that and do whatever I can to make that happen. In some states, the coalitions are just getting started, and so we can develop those relationships, and myself and my staff are here to really support that. I also, Bonnie explained the three different sort of categories of states. Those aren't static categories. I want to make that very clear. In January, Delaware started out saying, we're going to go for civil unions. The coalition started to work on that. And lo and behold, it was unbelievably popular. And in the course of about 2 months, they realized, we can go further than this. And they went from civil unions and got full marriage equality within 6 months. As Bonnie said, in Illinois, we started in 2004 to begin education, and we don't even quite have it yet. So that took 9 years. Delaware took 6 months. So we need to make sure that in those in-between states, those states on the bench, that we are started, we are organized, and we are ready to go when the opportunity is there. The opportunity doesn't come that often, so we need to make sure that we take it. And as she said, these states that just had, I just was speaking to Caroline Staerk, who's the president in Rhode Island. They are so pumped, they are so happy, they are so excited as to what happened, and they really would love to reach out to other chapters and say, yes, let me prep you for that testifying, let me prep you for that rally, that march, whatever it is, because they just went through it. So we want to make sure that chapters are helping each other, that they're connected when they need to be. Like I said, regular trainings, regular coaching, and on top of it all, I want to know what you want. So feel free to give me feedback. I'll tell you at the end, but my email address is in the handout. It's just field, the word field, @now.org. If there are materials you aren't getting that you want, please let me know, because if your chapter wants them, chances are there's about 20 other chapters that would like them as well. She mentioned the campaign goals. Sorry, I'm just going through this. So we want to make sure that we have lots of variety as to how people get involved, not just our activists, but others. And so I wanted to introduce Caroline, who can talk a little bit about different ways that field can get involved.
All right, good morning, everybody. I am really excited to be here, so thank you for your attention and thank you guys for having me. I hope that the conference has gone well so far. Yes? Yes. Can I just have a show of hands? Who from here, or who here is from Illinois? All right, so we have a great contingency. Yay. So I'm going to be talking specifically about what folks can do in Illinois, but clearly these kinds of things can apply all across the country. I think everybody kind of heard the news that we were hoping to pass this bill by May 31st of this year in this legislative session. I think some of our representatives spoke yesterday, some of our Kelly Cassidy and Doug Hill. And it didn't pass. And we didn't have a vote. We had a vote that went through the Senate Executive Committee, through the Senate, full Senate, and then through the House Executive Committee, but it stopped in the House full floor vote. And of course, I think everybody was let down. We were sad, but for me it took 2 days, and I said, all right, we're getting back on the horse. Like, we can't let, a stumbling block kind of keep us back. So what we've been doing in the last month or so is regrouping and rethinking, how do we do this? We have a coalition. It's the Illinois Unites for Marriage Coalition. It's made up of 50 different groups. Now is part of that coalition. And really what we're trying to do is all right, we know what worked, we know what didn't work. So let's move forward and think of some dynamic ways that we can keep moving this and keep pushing this. So one of the things that we've done is kind of split our power into different groups within the coalition. So we have the field team, which I'm part of, we have the media team, then we have the lobbying team, and clearly all of these teams have to work together. For us, we as field staff we move forward when we know what our legislative targets are. So, working with the lobbying team, we try and say, okay, these are the areas where the legislator needs a push, right? We know that Kelly Cassidy is supportive. We know that Representative Doug Hill is supportive, right? So we need to work in communities where the representative, maybe is almost there, or they're still deciding, and they need to hear from people. So one of the things that we're hoping to do, canvassing, I think probably most people here have probably knocked on a door or two in their life, right? I know I've probably not done more than that. But, one of the things that we heard actually from Rhode Island is something that they incorporated is having people, when they get them on the door, write a personal letter. So they leave a template that says, please tell your representative that you are this, and this is why you care about marriage equality. And what they do is they say, just leave it on the door, and we'll pick it up when we come back. So, canvassing can take a couple hours. So, from your first door to your last door, there's time. And what they found is that people were actually doing this. So it was a handwritten letter to the representative about why this person cares for marriage in their district, which I think is a wonderful idea. And again, I've talked to a lot of different places. I've talked to some folks in Minnesota on their faith organizing, because they had a big contingency of folks that were working in faith communities. We've been doing that as well. We've been doing that for the 5 years that I've been the field director. But again, finding new and dynamic ways is always a wonderful opportunity. And the states that have done this have the blueprint. The other thing, I know you mentioned Delaware too. Other states that have passed marriage have been incredibly excited to help. So when we have a phone bank, a lot of these different folks, because you can do this remotely, a lot of this now you can do via, you log onto your computer if you have a phone, which I think most of us do. All you need to do is log on, and the script is there, the numbers are there, you just have to call, and we can transfer directly to the representative, which is also a wonderful thing. That even, I first started organizing, I'm 35, when we didn't have cell phones even really, it was like you had to call people. We didn't have, Facebook. So, there's a lot of great ways that, we can work with other states, but also here, because again, we can't be everywhere. I know, Amanda, you did some remote calls from Springfield, right? So there's a lot of opportunity to help. We have postcards. I've been asking folks if you would to sign one. But those are kind of things that I can send, and if you have time one afternoon, if there's a great farmer's market, let's do it, right? And these are all things that we, just as Abby said, we would be able to give you the tools, so the step-by-step, and then if you can go with a friend, or if you need us to be there the first time, we're more than willing to do that. Another great way, and I think this was also mentioned, to get the word out quickly is clearly social media. We have one person who has been helping us in doing a lot of the social media pieces for us, and then we kind of all just spread it out coalition-wide. But the graphics and click here and share this are amazing. The Illinois Unites for Marriage Facebook page started, I believe, in January or February and has 25,000 followers. So it's proof. Again, not all of these people necessarily translate into an action, right? But even 10% of that is big. So I'm one of those people, I still like, the face-to-face. I like being here with you and being able to talk to you and shake your hand. But I do find that there is a lot of, you can organize people in a different way via Facebook and via Twitter. So again, there's so much that I could talk about, and I don't want to take up too much time, and you guys can clearly ask some questions. But the main thing moving forward is I think that we are really trying to do this from a united front and a united voice. I really think that this state is ready. I think it's just, we have to take those final steps. And again, I know that this may sound trite, but I think one of the most important things with this marriage campaign is people telling their stories. I know that all these other organizing tools are incredibly important, but I think the one thing, and if you saw any of the testimony that came out of these different, the different states that now have marriage, the legislators stood up and talked about a constituent or a couple or a family that came to them and said, this is my family, this is who I am, and had that discussion on that level. And that's another big piece of this that we want to encourage folks to do, and again, we will give people the tools. But sitting down with a representative and having a discussion, especially now because they're off, Illinois' legislative session is typically end of January to the end of May. So right now they should be at their home offices. And having that discussion is what really makes the difference. So I guess lastly, because this just occurred, it's utilizing, and for us in the summer, because we're in northern states, it's a little easier to be outside than it is in the winter. But we just had a huge pride parade. They said 1 million people came. And one of the things when we started, when we were regrouping in June, is we said, okay, even though we're regrouping, we need to do a couple things now. Like, we have to implement things now. So we decided, we're going to set up some community meetings across the state to talk to folks, to get people activated, to kind of, this same discussion, saying, what happened, what that we did well, what do we need to improve, what does the community need, and what do you think are pieces of organizing that make sense here for this particular area. But the other piece was, how do we utilize the festivals that are coming up? And there are a lot of Pride festivals across the state. I go to them every year. But again, Chicago Pride is huge. So one of the things we did is we had a group of about 10 or 15 volunteer leaders who took kind of their own little section of the parade, along with 5 or 6 other volunteers, and they just canvassed the parade. And especially in the morning, people are just waiting. Usually people line up early, at least 2 or 3 hours beforehand. So with that, we were able to get about 3,000 postcards in all parts of the state, which is amazing. I mean, you can't usually...
That's awesome.
Right. You can't usually do that kind of a thing when you're just even at a farmer's market, right? So these are all really important things. And one of our volunteers put together a list of all the different festivals and markets and parades, in the districts where the legislator needs a push. So when somebody says, what can I do? We can say, well, here's a festival. Can you go and talk to people? Here's, a parade. Can you march with your legislator, right? Again, all these things are visibility. They're talking to people. They're, another touch that will hopefully touch the legislator. So the other piece of that in the Pride Parade, and then I promise I'll finish, is we had,
So
we had a bunch of these printed, and if anybody wants to take one and put it in your house or, you know, in your car, feel free. But we had a bunch of these printed, and we tried to hand them out to folks all along the parade route, so folks who were standing there, but then also people who were marching. And we just tried to have a very, you know, positive, unified theme, because at this point, you know, that's what we need. We're all in this together. Our end goal, no matter how we reach it, is marriage equality in this state. And, you know, I think almost probably every other, but we had a lot of folks who participated and carried these and put these on their floats. And, you know, people were grabbing them from the sidelines too. So it was a great experience. There's a lot of different ways to take the opportunity for the different events that occur, you know, usually, I mean, Pride Parade happens every year. So it's just being able to take advantage of it and having that opportunity. But again, I'll stop, but thank you.